key takeaways? As in, now that Vodafone has, the High Court has basically put in favor of Vodafone, the key takeaways, your initial reactions on that, ma'am?
Well, we welcome the verdict. Clearly, this is an affirmation of the fact that a put option exercise, which was brought into challenge by the tax department, as far as ostensible exigibility tax, has effectively been quashed. The Bombay High Court appears, from what we have just heard, to have pronounced a judgment upholding the stance of the assessee on the basis that these are matters that were already adjudicated upon by the Supreme Court itself back in the year 2012, and therefore, very clearly, that would not be open to be rehashed. And as a consequence, Bombay High Court has also declined to get into the question of valuations around the put options, which was also a matter that was substantively argued by the tax department before the Bombay High Court. So that's on the put option section of what is today's verdict. And then there was the matter of the sale of business center, so of the call center, and very clearly on that too, the Bombay High Court has essentially upheld the stance of the assessee with regard to, obviously, the fact that there is no exigibility tax on that transaction either. So certainly a very welcome verdict from an investor standpoint, from a Vodafone standpoint, and from a legal fraternity standpoint, I would think.
And ma'am, also other than the 8,500 crore transfer pricing case, there was a demand order of close to 3,500, 3,007 crore. Now, what would be the stance on that, ma'am?
That falls away with the verdict that has just been pronounced.
Okay. Also, ma'am, do you think what opposed this verdict, how will be the overall in the international investor community, how will be India's image as such post this verdict? How do you think that will be panning out?
I think this verdict is a huge boost for the position of India, actually, with the international investor community, for the reason specifically that it reaffirms that we have a rule of law, that our courts will step in when required and ensure that tax demands which are unreasonable in nature should not under any circumstances be imposed upon assessees who really should not be put through the travails of having to meet these kinds of demands in the first place.
And ma'am, post this, do you think ITAT will be going ahead and appealing in the Supreme Court? What is your stance on that?
Of course, that's their decision, but I would like to think that given that the present dispensation, the government of India, has very clearly indicated that it will respect and uphold verdicts which essentially, having been reviewed and found to bear scrutiny, should not unwarrantedly be challenged. We would expect and hope, but of course that verdict still needs to be read and fully understood, and then obviously once we have the benefit of that, we would like to think that it's not capable of being appealed under any circumstances, and that the government of India will naturally respect the verdict of the Bombay High Court.
And ma'am, last question is, what will be the way forward for the other arbitration cases that we are seeing in the court? What do you think will be the way forward for them?
Well, to my mind, this certainly leads the way. It is an extremely important judgment in the realm of transfer pricing, and very clearly it ought to be a signal to the tax department to ensure that unwarranted demands and unwarranted evaluations are not resorted to, because clearly assessees would then become eligible to challenge those in court, and then at the end of the day to have to effectively return monies that have been wrongfully demanded, etc., is really, in that sense, not a very productive exercise, in my opinion. But obviously, that's decisions that the tax department will have to take.
Thank you for talking to CNBC TV 18, and thank you.
All right, so not just for Vodafone, but this is a breather for a lot of those taxpayers. The unreasonable tax demands will not be imposed on payers. That's the big takeaway coming in from there. But we'll take a break. Up next, we travel to the interiors of Marathwada with Archana Shukla as part of our series, What's